The opulent dining room buzzed with a polite tension, rich with the sound of laughter punctuated by the occasional clink of fine china. The flickering candles cast a warm glow, illuminating the faces of my boyfriend's family, their smiles bright, but their eyes carrying the weight of condescension. I took a deep breath, grounding myself in the moment. The aroma of expensive wine swirled in the air, yet the bitter taste of disdain filled my mouth. I could sense the comfortable atmosphere that wrapped around them like a silk shawl, one that I didn't belong to. I felt the familiar pang of being an outsider, poised on the edge, observing their elitism from a distance. As I sat at the table, I couldn't help but analyze my surroundings. Crystal chandeliers sparkling above, lavish floral arrangements that seemed to outshine the conversation. I studied their interactions, my heart sinking as I absorbed the subtle but palpable air of superiority. Jack, my boyfriend, sat beside me, occasionally casting worried glances as his family conversed animatedly about their recent holiday travels, lavish investments, and high society events that seemed to pass me by like shadows. There, right between the gourmand delights and dainty starters, my name was nothing more than a whisper, detached from any real regard. My name is Sarah. I'm 36 years old, and they think I'm just a service worker, I thought bitterly, a bitter laugh threatening to escape my lips. The words stung like an open wound, and yet my exterior remained composed, an unyielding mask honed by years of facing the judgment of others. I was Commander Sarah Turner, a Judge Advocate General in the U.S. Navy. Yet here, at the Morgan dinner table, I felt reduced to a mere footnote in the narrative they crafted, one rife with exclusion and arrogance. I shifted uncomfortably in my seat, catching my mother-in-law's gaze. Margaret leaned forward, her delicate fingers tracing the rim of her glass, sharp and predatory. "So, Sarah, dear," she said, a tone cloaked in forced sweetness. "How does your little military lifestyle suit you? A law degree is impressive, but don't you think it limits your options? The Navy isn't exactly known for providing the most stable paths." Her words struck like arrows, their accuracy puncturing right through to my heart. Around the table, a cottony silence settled as Jack shifted uncomfortably, his face reflecting the struggle between my pride and his alignment with his family's views. I could almost hear his silent plea for me to brush it off, to keep the peace, even if it meant swallowing my dignity whole. But this wasn't the first time I'd faced such disrespect, nor would it be the last. I felt the heat rise to my cheeks as Margaret's words lingered, a noxious cloud tainting the air. "They forgot who I became while they were laughing," I reminded myself fiercely, reminding myself of the strength I earned through years of unrelenting service. My thoughts darted back to my deployments, the times I'd defended soldiers and veterans in high-stakes legal battles, the landmark case I had established that changed military law forever. As the conversation shifted to stories of extravagant vacations and their sons' prestigious careers, I sank deeper into my thoughts. I remembered past family gatherings, moments I sometimes replayed in my mind, feeling the sting of rejection mixed with an insatiable hunger for inclusivity that always felt just out of reach. When I decided to forge a path in the Navy, that was when the dismissals began. "The military isn't a career," my father would admonish. "It's just a way to waste your youth." Those words echoed in my memory like a gut-wrenching reminder of how they viewed my life choices. Now, surrounded by them, my family returned, their reverted gazes and half-hearted smiles sharpened with each dismissive comment. The roast wafted through the air, tantalizing but discomforting. My heart raced, adrenaline pushing me to the tipping point. I could either remain silent, folding under their weight, or seize the moment to stand my ground. Each forkful of food dragged along my sense of self-respect, and a voice in my head screamed for recognition. But I held my composure, drawing on the Navy training that had molded me. Calm and methodical, I analyzed every nuance in their dialogue, every dismissive tone, and absorbed the context, determined not to let their ignorance define me. With each bite of the meticulously crafted meal, the anger simmered just beneath the surface, an impending storm brewing, waiting for the first cloud to rupture. The laughter around me rang hollow, and I realized that my patience was wearing thin. I glanced at Jack, searching for a sign of his support, yet saw a flicker of discomfort flash across his features, revealing the ever-present tension between me and his family. I needed to reclaim my narrative, to remind them of the sacrifices I'd made, to show them who I had truly become in their absence. I could almost feel that strength rising from within, coiling tighter with each cut of their laughter, each jab of indifference. Soon, they wouldn't laugh anymore. They would see me as I was, a woman of valor and conviction, forged by the fires of service and duty, defying their expectations, ready to stand tall and unyielding amongst the mocking heights of their elitism. But for now, I would wait, steeling myself against the storm that was to come. As I sat through the unbearable pleasantries of dinner, my thoughts wandered back to my childhood, a tapestry woven with moments of both pride and pain. There were those instances of laughter shared with cousins, the warmth of family gatherings, but they were never without a tinge of discomfort for me. The expectation for conformity, the unspoken pressure to adhere to a path they deemed honorable, loomed overhead like an oppressive cloud. I found myself constantly straddling the line between love and misunderstanding, belonging and alienation. I could easily recall the day I first expressed my desire to join the Navy. I was 16, brimming with youthful enthusiasm as dreams of adventure filled my imagination. My school friends were discussing college options and the prospects of scholarships, while my heart raced at the thought of a future spent on the open water, serving my country. When I announced my intentions to my family, the room fell silent, their expressions shifting from surprise to disbelief. Military service? Sarah, that's not a life anyone wants, my father, Thomas, said dismissively, a scowl etched on his features. It's a man's world. Those words hung heavily in the air, punctuated by Margaret's icy glare, reflecting their shared sentiment that my ambitions were a triviality, a phase I would soon grow out of. The mockery of my dreams lodged itself deeply within me, a painful reminder of what they believed to be my failure to rise above a perceived limitation. The contrast between my upbringing and my aspirations was stark. My father, a retired Navy officer, seemed almost to resent my pursuit of a military career. He had served with honor, yet the pride he should have felt was replaced by an unshakable skepticism about women's roles in the military. My mother, who had always been more concerned with social standing than familial bonds, joined ranks with him. Her words stung even more than his. "How quaint, dear," she would laugh, a thin layer of mockery buried under her genteel facade. "Wouldn't it be better to find a nice husband and settle down?" The dismissive attitudes persisted through the years, seeping into the fabric of our family gatherings. Time and again, I would sit at holiday tables filled with relatives discussing their children's Ivy League schools, lucrative careers, and impressive positions in esteemed companies. I was an outsider looking in, a ghost hovering between worlds, but never granted the keys to enter. When I shared stories of my achievements in the Navy, training missions, deployments, and groundbreaking cases, I was met with polite nods, quickly shifted to conversations about more cheerful subjects. Each moment of sharing felt like a splinter lodged deep within me, yet beneath the dismissive remarks and surface-level interactions laid a quiet resolve developing within me. I would emerge from this unyielding cycle, determined to carve my path. Every birthday spent listening to their trivial concerns fed my ambition to rise higher, to become more than they envisioned. So, I threw myself into my studies, attempting to drown out the echoes of their disapproval with the sound of my own ambition. I recalled my first deployment, filled with trepidation, but also a palpable excitement. It was aboard the USS George H.W. Bush, stationed in the Mediterranean. As I stepped onto the deck, the vastness of the ocean stretched endlessly before me, and I felt an unshakable sense of belonging. The camaraderie among my fellow sailors was intoxicating. We shared dreams, fears, and hopes, broadcasting a charted course toward a future steeped in purpose and loyalty. Being in uniform ignited something powerful within. It pushed me to prove myself in ways I had never thought possible. In the months that followed, I absorbed the nuances of naval law, navigating through complex regulations and immersing myself in the nuances of justice for the brave service members who depended on us. I became a staunch defender of their rights, often risking my own comfort to advocate for those who served with honor. The poring over legal codes late into the night was no longer a chore. It was my calling. Then came the day I defended a landmark case that would change military law, a pivotal moment that resonated deeply within me, infusing my spirit with both pride and the harsh sting of delayed acceptance. I fought fiercely, and the legal community buzzed with my name as the news spread like wildfire. Yet, standing in the courtroom, basking in the accomplishment, I felt more alone than ever. Upon my return to family gatherings, all they could muster was a thin smile and the usual dismissive remarks about sensible careers and real jobs. Every family dinner felt like walking through a minefield. I could feel the tension bubble beneath the surface as eyes glossed over at the mention of my role as a JAG officer. Instead of being met with applause, I was welcomed with comments that made it clear my achievements held little weight in their estimation. "Oh, how nice you're still fighting those battles," my mother would say, rolling her eyes, while I fought against the fire threatening to erupt from my chest. The shame of being disregarded crept closer, taunting me each time I sat in their presence. Except for Jack. He had been my beacon in this tumultuous sea of expectations. We met at a naval function where I presented my case on litigation affecting service members. He approached me, his admiration unmistakable, weaving an instant connection that seemingly transcended the judgments of our families. With every conversation, he encouraged me, genuinely appreciating the sacrifices I had made for my career, while understanding the internal conflicts I waged against the unwavering skepticism of his own family. I had hoped that together we could bridge the yawning chasm created by our different backgrounds, but the pull of his elitist family weighed heavily on him, creating a constant tension between our worlds that left me feeling helpless and diminished. I saw the uncertainty in his eyes whenever family conversations skewed toward my career. Jack never wished to defy his parents, and as much as he supported me, he always hesitated when it came to standing up to them. It was a painful dichotomy, a love deepened by understanding that was perpetually undermined by the prejudices injected into his childhood. The moments we shared felt sacred, a space where I could voice my identity without fear of judgment. However, each ride home from his family gatherings reminded me of the suffocating expectations I faced. I yearned for a different reality, one where acceptance was not dependent upon titles, where my achievements were lauded and my story acknowledged. Yet, overwhelming pride surged with each recollection of my journey, filling me with renewed energy for the battle ahead at dinner. My narrative was one of resilience, defiance, and an unwillingness to compromise who I was for their acceptance. It was time to reclaim my identity amid their laughter, to show them that I was more than just what they saw on the surface. I felt the clarity of purpose pulsating through me. This would not be another dinner drowned in shame or mockery, but rather a turning point where I could finally stand tall, unyielding against the tide of prejudice that had held me back for too long. Suddenly, my achievements, my experiences, all of it rushed to the forefront of my mind. I was more than a daughter striving for approval. I was a commander in the U.S. Navy, tempered by years of service, fueled by a desire for justice for those who deserved a voice. They would see me for who I truly was, regardless of their long-standing biases. As the conversation continued around me, I resolved that tonight would end this narrative of dismissal. They would bow under the weight of truth, and I would help shape the story. As the clinking of silverware against porcelain echoed through the room, the tension thickened like fog, swallowing any warmth that had lingered in our family's atmosphere. I could feel my heart thudding in my chest, resonating with the urgency of the moment. It was as if I were on a battlefield, preparing for the inevitable clash, and the anticipation simmered in the air, heavy and unyielding. They continued to ignore the elephant in the room, the stark contrast between their expectations and my reality, as if I were merely a shadow flitting through their lives. They giggled and exchanged stories about their days, their words flowing effortlessly while I sat silently, steeling myself for what was to come. It felt all too familiar, being the proverbial punching bag, the target of barbs delivered cloaked in disguised humor. Just as I laid my fork down, preparing to speak, my father's voice cut through the ambient chatter like a knife. "You know, Sarah, the Navy is a fine choice for some, especially if they can't quite make it in the real world. he chuckled, casting a sideways glance at my mother, who echoed his sentiment with a titter of laughter. The laughter around me was sharp, a cacophony of voices that rang hollow and cruel. The words felt like chains clamping down around my chest, choking back the defiance that had been growing within me. I was poised at the edge of my breaking point. The months, the years of humiliation and disillusionment coalesced into a singular moment, tinged with bitterness and anger. I could no longer contain the tempest that had been breeding inside of me, driven by the echoes of their disdain. I could either lash out or wield my pain with purpose. Taking a breath, I clenched my fists, feeling the cool metal of my rings digging into my skin, a reminder of the woman I had become and everything I had accomplished. The years spent battling doubts, reeling from their condescension, fueled my conviction. I had dedicated my life to defending those who served, and yet here I was, still seeking the admiration of those who refused to acknowledge my worth. No more. Do you ever wonder what it takes to serve, Dad? My voice broke through their laughter, rising like the tide. Do you contemplate the sacrifices those in uniform make? The grit it requires to face down the future? Silence poured across the table like a heavy blanket, the jovial mood swiftly replaced by an icy stillness that enveloped us. I could see them all freeze, their forks faltering midair, their expressions shifting from amusement to confusion. I pushed forward, no longer willing to flinch beneath their taunts. Every day I am away from home, every moment I spend fighting for justice, every challenge I meet in the courtroom, all of it shapes the journey of who I am, I continued, my voice unwavering, infusing each word with the power I felt rising from deep within, a tidal wave of determination fueled by years of perseverance. It is real, Dad. It is life, and it is service. For a moment, I saw the flicker of realization cross my father's face, a spark of uncertainty that momentarily quelled his facade. But just as quickly as it appeared, it was snuffed out by the derision of my family's expectations. He cleared his throat and tried to dismiss my words. It's just the Navy, Sarah. Nothing extraordinary about it. Let's talk about something more relevant, shall we? I felt the heat crawl up my spine, igniting a fire fueled by the years of living under their indifference. You think I'm ordinary? You truly believe that every day I put on my uniform is just playing soldier in your mind? My voice trembled, laden with years of pent-up frustration and disappointment. The room buzzed with the palpable energy of my revelation, and I knew I had crossed an invisible line. Let me remind you, I have spent countless nights studying law and policy, navigating a maze of military bureaucracy while battling for the rights of those who often go unheard. I have fought in the trenches, both literally and figuratively, and my experiences have forged me into someone who knows what honor truly means. The passion in my voice cracked through the stony silence that had settled over the table, compelling them to listen, to engage for once. Jack's eyes widened, an encouraging glimmer sparking behind them. I caught a glimpse of pride on his face, reflecting the affection he felt for who I was, more than just a daughter, but rather a warrior standing tall against the tide. His support nestled warmly in my chest, empowering me to keep pushing back against their narrow definitions of success and worth. Now that I had taken the plunge, I refused to shy away from the repercussions. In that courtroom, I fight for the soldiers who put their lives on the line, who risk everything. Yet here, I sit as if my service is trivial, stagnant. It's not just a job for me, it's the very fabric of who I am. It was as though I had executed a perfect maneuver in battle, jolting everyone out of their complacency. My words ignited the room. I felt the walls of their disapproval start to crumble. Do you truly understand the depths of my commitment? The sleepless nights spent in training, or the heavy burdens that accompany the responsibility of defending our freedom? Or are you too busy painting me as a caricature, a lesser version of the daughter you thought you'd raised? Tension hung thick in the air as everyone processed what I had just unleashed. My pulse raced in my ears like a drumbeat, amplifying my courage and carrying my voice through the silence. Their past dismissals felt stifling now. Unshed tears prickled my eyes, and I struggled to keep my composure. I am more than your expectations. I am shaped by my struggles, not defined by them. Jack shifted in his chair, his eyes flitting between his family and me, uncertainty flickering like candlelight. As he opened his mouth to speak, his grandmother interjected, snapping her fingers to regain control of the situation. "Sarah, dear, we appreciate your fervor, but let's not forget we are here to celebrate family." As I glared at her, the words caught in my throat, a tightly wound ball of rage and frustration that begged to be unleashed. I could feel my father's gaze sharpen, one of disbelief mixed with embarrassment. "This is our family gathering, and we won't let you turn it into a stage for your grievances. You've chosen your path. We don't need to hear more about it," he said coldly, attempting to regain authority amid the chaos. For a moment, the room seemed to spin in silent motion, and it felt as if the very foundation of my reality, my sense of identity, hung suspended in the balance. I could feel the weight of their scorn bearing down on me, an ocean of dismissal crashing relentlessly against the shores of my resolve. But just as fear whispered for me to retreat, pride surged forth. "No, I will not retreat," I declared, rising from my seat. "This is the moment of truth for me. I refuse to be anyone's shadow anymore. I declare my narrative. I refuse to walk tethered to your expectations. Tonight, I am laying bare my truth because it deserves to be heard." The room echoed with the shadows of judgment as I stood tall, refusing to back down. It was as if lightning had cracked the silence, illuminating the cracks in their indifference. I could feel Jack's presence behind me, solid and unwavering, a beacon of support brimming with unspoken admiration as I defended myself in this battlefield of familial expectations. I breathed in deeply, standing resolute, ready for whatever was to come next. As the cascading waves of my voice grew louder, so too did my resolve to shatter their outdated notions of who I was supposed to be. I was Commander Sarah Williams, and I would navigate these turbulent waters, charting a course toward a path where my identity would shine brightly, a beacon transforming shadows of doubt into a tapestry filled with honor, respect, and love mirrored back to me in their eyes. Tonight was no longer an ordinary family gathering. It had become the turning point where I began to reclaim my identity and pave my way in the world, one that demanded to be recognized, respected, and celebrated. The tide was shifting. I was done being the unseen soldier in my own story. I would emerge victorious, cloaked in my truth, unyielding in my purpose, finally ready to shape the narrative. The atmosphere was thick with tension, the kind that can only be felt in moments of uncertainty. My heartbeat resonated in my ears, a rhythmic reminder of the resolve surging within me. Under the scrutiny of my family's collective gaze, I felt like the eye of a storm, calm, even as chaos swirled around me. The history of dismissals, belittling comments, and condescending remarks flashed through my mind, urging me to articulate the truth I had so long kept buried. "Do you know what it means to serve?" I started, my voice steady but firm. The room fell silent as my family exchanged glances, uncertainty marking their faces. Every time I put on this uniform, I am stepping into a legacy that demands respect and honor. And I'm not just talking about military accolades. I'm talking about understanding who we are as a nation and how we protect our freedoms. Their expressions shifted from disbelief to tentative intrigue as my words washed over them. I pressed on. Being a commander in the Navy means standing firm for the rights of those who serve, men and women willing to sacrifice everything. They deserve proper representation, not just from the military, but from our families as well. Jack shifted closer, his presence adding fuel to my fervor, reminding me that I was not alone in this fight. "I don't fight for my name to be on a plaque or to be glorified," I continued, letting my passion breathe life into my narrative. "I fight for the soldiers and sailors who rely on me to be their voice in times of crisis, whether they're battling legal issues or moral dilemmas. My role is to elevate their stories, to advocate for their rights, and to ensure they are not forgotten." From the far end of the table, my father leaned forward, a spark of curiosity igniting in his eyes, yet questions still lingered. But what if it's risky? What if it costs you everything? The underlying concern in his words stung, but instead of feeling offended, I welcomed it. This was the moment to bridge the gap between misunderstanding and clarity. Every day is risky, Dad. It's part of the job. We face that when we choose to serve, I replied, meeting his gaze head-on. But it's also about courage. It means having the guts to stand up, even in the face of indifference and hostility. And trust me, it takes a lot of it to be both a commander and an advocate. My voice rose passionately, echoing off the walls like a battle cry. I've seen amazing human resilience among soldiers in the darkest of times. Why wouldn't I want to be that protector and advocate? My grandmother's eyes softened as I spoke. So this is your way of showing strength? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I could see the wheels turning in her mind, contemplating the profound connection I had articulated between strength, service, and duty. I nodded vigorously. Exactly, Grandma. Strength is more than physical combat. It's about mental fortitude and emotional empathy. It's about ensuring that those fighting for our freedoms are understood and supported in return. Every night I lay awake thinking of how I can do more for them, advocating for change, ensuring they don't feel lost in the system. The momentary silence was punctuated by murmurs, as the gravity of what I was conveying sunk in. I felt the walls they had built for so long beginning to crack. But do you get recognized? Aunt Mary ventured cautiously, her brow furrowed with genuine concern. Is your contribution even acknowledged? I took a deep breath, knowing this was another opportunity to enlighten them. Recognition doesn't always come from titles or grand gestures, Aunt Mary. Sometimes it comes in the quiet moments when a soldier gives me a nod of gratitude, or when they realize they're not alone in their battles. It's in those small victories that I find my calling realized. Jack stepped forward, bolstering my claim. We need more people to take those roles seriously. Sarah's work is crucial, not just for the Navy, but for the humanity of those who serve. Whether it's in advocating for mental health resources or battling systemic issues that can hinder our troops, her work is vital. Their faces began to illuminate with understanding. It was heartening to witness that the misconceptions that had long imprisoned our conversations were finally being challenged. Honestly, I've never thought about it that way. My cousin chimed in, his voice a blend of surprise and admiration. I always thought serving meant combat and medals, but I see now it's so much broader. This should have been our conversation ages ago, my father admitted, his tone not one of defeat, but of newfound respect. We failed to recognize the sacrifices you've made and how they connect to what you stand for today. Oh, don't get me started, my aunt interjected, smirking as she tried to lighten the mood. Think I can get you to write my will? I'd just be terrified that you'd use your legal prowess to assure I get 0. Laughter erupted, cutting through the taut atmosphere we had built moments before. It was a welcome relief, a sign of cohesion beginning to reform. Yes, I'll write it, but only if you agree to attend a family barbecue next time I'm back. I joked, reveling in their laughter, but knowing the crux of our initial confrontation had cracked open the landscape of our relationship. As we shared moments of levity, I felt a sense of liberation wash over me. We were building bridges instead of fortifying walls. This is what we need more of, isn't it? I asked, glancing around the table. Open discussions instead of dismissive comments. Connecting over shared stories, not just expectations. If we're going to change our conversations, Jack said, standing beside me with determination in his posture, we must do it together. Family is more than blood. It's about support and understanding. I nodded vigorously, buoyed by the emerging tide of acceptance. Agreed, Jack. We need to be a united front, breaking down the barriers that silence our voices. That includes valuing each other's paths, even when they diverge from expected norms. Understanding flickered in my father's eyes as he turned to face me directly. "I've always worried about the path you chose. I suppose I equated safety with love. I never intended to make you feel less than. I see now, your journey is about so much more." That moment, layered with vulnerability, hit home. "Your love has always mattered, Dad, but I need you to recognize that I'm forging my path, one that I want to share with you, not just for your approval, but because it's who I am." I felt my chest tighten as I spoke. The emotional weight of so many unspoken words almost broke free, teetering on the precipice. Let's learn together instead of judging. Let's stand together instead of isolating. And in that moment, I glimpsed a shining horizon, the evolving narrative of our family's legacy. No longer would we rest easily in our ignorance. This moment marked the beginning of a commitment that would transform our relationships into something genuine and enduring. "Okay, let's do this," my father said, his voice brimming with a newfound determination. "A family discussion every month, maybe, to cultivate our understanding. I'll even bring cookies." The laughter erupted anew, genuine and resonant, enveloping us all in warmth and love. The commitment to open dialogue promised a pathway forward, illuminated by the richness of our identities and experiences. Every voice mattered, and I vowed to do everything in my power to uphold that truth. In one pivotal evening, fraught with tension and discomfort, I had broken through the barriers of my family's misconceptions, creating a new reality for its members. This wasn't just my story anymore. It was theirs. One that intertwined solidarity, respect, and a profound understanding of our diverse journeys. As conversations flowed, I took every opportunity to reinforce our bonds, further painting a picture of the unified family I had long envisioned, rooted in acknowledgement and deep respect for one another. No longer would I exist as an unseen soldier in my own life. I had ushered in a new era, one of shared narratives and collective strength. That night would mark the turning point in our journey together, a promise of future conversations filled with honesty, love, and an unwavering support for each other's paths. I had cemented my identity as Commander Sarah Williams, yet now I was also the cherished daughter, friend, and ally at the heart of my family, ready to chart this new course together into the exciting unknown. The house reverberated with the lingering echoes of laughter and camaraderie as I felt myself spiral into a delightful whirlwind of emotions that intertwined pride, joy, and a hint of disbelief. Just moments ago, I had stood in the middle of a family gathering, grappling with years of dismissal and misunderstanding. But now, in the face of this unexpected recognition, everything had shifted. There was a sense of hope and renewal in the air, intoxicating and liberating. Suddenly, the commanding officer stepped forward, his boots clicking sharply against the marble floor, re-establishing focus in the room. "Admiral on deck!" The powerful declaration cut across the hesitance, electrifying the space as if lighting a match against the dampened darkness of past misconceptions. My father, my family, and I gaped in synchrony at the Navy SEALs that had so suddenly appeared, formation etched against the backdrop of my childhood home. Their attire was as polished and striking as the news they bore, and their demeanor commanded both respect and awe. The sheer reality of the moment began to sink in, thrusting forward in sharp contrast to our previous intimate family atmosphere. Each glance exchanged among my family members was a mixture of curiosity, confusion, and slow dawning realization. The impressive display of my fellow service members against the warm nostalgia of home served as a tapestry, weaving together the past with the present, a bridge leading to newfound understanding. As Rear Admiral Jenkins stood at the forefront, the weight of his gaze locked onto mine with a fatherly intensity that filled my heart with both trepidation and exhilaration. When he addressed the family, His tone was infused with admiration. "We are gathered to honor Commander Sarah Williams for her exemplary service and dedication to our country and its brave sailors and soldiers." I felt a wave of warmth spread through me as his words enveloped the room, bathing my family in the gravity of my journey, a journey they had only begun to grasp. I stood frozen for a moment. The recognition I had long desired was finally materializing, enfolding me with pride. Here, in front of the very essence of familial love and support, my achievements were about to be unveiled in a way that felt immeasurable. "Commander Williams has fought tirelessly for her fellow sailors," the Admiral continued, "advocating fiercely for justice, integrity, and representation under the complex and often brutal realities of military law." I could almost hear the collective intake of breath around the room, the gasp of disbelief dissipating into awe. The realization was rippling through my family like a pebble thrown into a pond, creating waves of understanding that would travel far. They were hearing, no, witnessing, who I truly was and the essence of my commitment to honor those I served alongside. "It is my proud privilege," he declared, "to announce her promotion to captain in the United States Navy." His voice resonated with authority, an anchor that grounded me amidst the soaring waves of emotion. A hushed silence fell over the assembly, and in that breath-stealing moment, I felt the eyes of my family widen, a mixture of shock, disbelief, and awe mingling in their gazes. Could the person they had long underestimated truly be standing before them, cloaked in every bit of honor and responsibility that a captain in the Navy demanded? As applause erupted, resounding in a jubilant crescendo, I sensed the atmosphere shift decisively. My family, once ensconced in a narrative of dismissal, would now be swept into an awakening that demanded acknowledgement. The SEALs around me saluted crisply, their respect palpable, a signal that rang clear. The facade had been lifted, revealing an indomitable truth. But amidst the chorus of excitement, I caught sight of my father's expression, transformed before my eyes. Gone were the traces of mockery that had once defined our interactions. Instead, I saw vulnerability and respect, shimmering hope in his eyes. The initial disbelief faded into realization, solidifying in that moment like the weight of my newfound rank. Jack, who had been a rock throughout my journey, spoke then, his voice louder than the echoing applause. "This is a moment for all of us, a shared victory." His enthusiasm resonated with the room, drawing my family into the collective celebration. I turned to my family, my heart swelling with gratitude and anticipation. "This is not just my moment," I began, meeting each gaze with unwavering resolve. "This is a moment for us to grow together, to understand the journey I've undertaken. I've fought battles not just in uniform, but within the confines of our family narratives. I want you to embrace this history with me." The celebratory applause subsided slightly, replaced by a new undercurrent of understanding. The collective mood began to shift, igniting curiosity about how I had arrived at this important juncture. Mutual acceptance lingered in the air, tempered by the realization that each family member held fragments of my story. My grandfather, the quietest one in the room, finally spoke up, his voice thick with emotion. "We're so proud of you, Sarah. We should have listened and supported you all along." His sincerity hung heavy, weighted with years of unspoken apologies. My mother held back tears, her eyes glistening as she nodded. "Connecting the dots of your journey, I realize how complex and brave your choices have been. I'm sorry for not understanding sooner." The admission spread through the room like a balm, healing wounds of misunderstanding that had marred our familial ties. I saw my father shift, his stoic demeanor faltering as he grappled with his previous misconceptions about my place and worth. "This is just the beginning," I said, the words spilling from my heart as I embraced the moment fully. "I've always believed in the importance of our family being a strong, unified force, one that supports each other through thick and thin, regardless of the paths we choose. The room was alive with renewed energy, conversation flowing like a minor symphony, resonating between us as we took in my promotion and the broader implications for our family. I want us to honor our individual journeys while shaping a shared narrative, I continued. This isn't merely a culmination of my efforts. It symbolizes our commitment to unraveling the expectations that bind us. Let's open the doors, talk, share truths that need to be acknowledged. Laughter interlaced with applause punctuated my statement, echoing the future I had dared to envision. I felt the surge of unity and acceptance radiating from my family, a palpable shift signifying that walls built on misunderstanding had been brought crashing down, giving way to the solidarity we all yearned for. In that moment, it became clear to me that we weren't merely celebrating my rise within the naval ranks. We were resurrecting the bonds of our family, committed to weaving our distinct paths into a grander tapestry of understanding, appreciation, and unconditional love. I envisioned monthly family discussions that would keep these conversations alive, fostering a culture of support continuously honoring our journeys, both past and present. Amid the growing euphoria, my father sought me out, his gaze steady. "Thank you for this, Sarah. You've shown us we cannot afford to overlook what's right in front of us. I am truly sorry for not believing in your dreams more fiercely." For the first time, I saw my father, not just as the man who had dismissed my aspirations, but as a fellow traveler on life's unpredictable journey, willing to evolve and learn. My heart swelled with gratitude, knowing that our narrative had transformed. The evening unfolded with warmth and laughter, stories told not only of my accomplishments, but of my family's shared experiences intertwined with pride. I felt fortified by the knowledge that my success was now stitched into the fabric of our shared identity, rooting us closer together in mutual respect. The joyous celebration stretched into the night, each member of my family sharing tales of old while casting glances behind them into the past. Lessons learned, memories cherished, and hard-earned growth. The real victory lay in our collective acknowledgement that together we could pave the way for brighter tomorrows, building our familial legacy on love, understanding, and resilience. As I navigated through the room, feasting my eyes on the overflowing joy, I understood with clarity that our family bonds thrived not just on shared blood, but on the stories that defined each of us. We were hurt, we fought, we grew. Moments like this defined future generations. In that moment, I was not just Captain Sarah Williams, I was also daughter, sister, and friend, ready to engage actively in this new narrative of acceptance flowing through our family, carving a path forward together. The sails of humility and understanding billowed in the winds of hope, guiding us on an uncharted journey that I would proudly navigate, standing resolute with those I cherished beside me. What had started as a family gathering laden with misunderstandings turned into a monumental canvas of transformation, one of recognition and love rooted deeply in honesty. As the night ripened, we attached ourselves to our unfolding future, fervently committed to keeping the doors of communication wide open. "I can't wait for our next family discussion," I called out, my voice blending with the joyous atmosphere enveloping us. It's time to explore all the complexities that brought us here and to share every journey that awaits us. And with that, we entered a new horizon, ready to embrace the adventures of both collective and individual paths. A family devoted to love, understanding, and cherishing our stories as they continued to unfold. There was no denying the tide had turned, and I was elated to be guiding us into this new era together. As the joyous celebration flourished, radiant laughter filled the room, each moment an echoing reminder of our shared identity and the resilience of our family. However, even amidst this joy, a familiar tension lingered in the background, and I felt a chill ripple through the air as I caught sight of my Uncle Mark standing noticeably apart from the warmth enveloping us. He was a fixture at family gatherings, a blend of skeptical intensity clad in a thick armor of cynicism. My heart tightened as I readied myself for the familiar conflict I sensed brewing. I had hoped for a night of unity, but it seemed Uncle Mark had other plans. Like storm clouds gathering on the horizon, he stood, arms crossed, waiting for the right moment to carve the night into something darker. "So what? You think all it takes is a promotion to turn you into a hero?" He scoffed, his voice breaking through the jubilant atmosphere. "Ceremonies and shiny ranks aren't going to change the world. The Navy doesn't fix everything." The laughter dimmed, and faces turned toward him, uncertainty creeping in. It was like someone had flipped a switch. The happiness I had felt moments before flickered like an unsteady flame. The tension sizzled, thickening the air, and for a moment, I almost wished I could retreat into the shadows, away from this painful confrontation. Yet, I steeled myself, recognizing that this night meant more than just celebration. It represented a bridge to healing and understanding that I would fight for. "Uncle Mark," I opened, my voice measured, yet unyielding. "This night isn't about accolades heading to my head. It's about family, love, and standing together in recognition of our struggles. We should be connecting, not tearing each other down." He wasn't dissuaded, his brow furrowing as he rebutted. "You think just because you have a shiny new title, you're above everyone else? Are you prepared for the reality of being in the field, the real dangers that come with it? People get hurt, Sarah. People die. It's all fun and games until it's not." A tight knot formed in my stomach, but I refused to waver. "Yes, the risks are real, Uncle Mark," I replied, my heart racing as adrenaline coursed through me. "I don't discount that, but every rank and responsibility I've earned exemplifies the strength built through challenges, showing resilience instead of retreating into fear. I'm standing here as a member of this family, one that faces adversity together, not as opponents in life's ongoing battles." His gaze hardened as he leaned forward, displaying a mixture of disdain and alarm. "But you don't know what that really means yet, do you? You think honors will protect you? What if you're standing there one day and it's all taken from you? Life isn't a fairy tale, and military service doesn't magically keep you safe." A shiver raced through me at his words, harsh echoes of truth wrapped in fear. Memories of those I had lost surfaced sharply, memories etched deep into the core of my being, reminding me of the reality we had signed up for. "I know the stakes, Uncle Mark," I replied, capturing the attention of others in the gathering as my words began to build momentum. "But because of that understanding, my commitment to service runs deeper than any title. It's about holding on to hope to create pathways for others who may struggle or endure." Uncle Mark's lips twisted as his skepticism clashed with my tone of resolve. "Okay then, what do you say to all the families that are destroyed by military service, the true costs that aren't reflected in your ceremonies?" His voice dripped with exasperation, even as several family members exchanged apprehensive glances. I felt the heat rising within me. "Uncle Mark, I hold those losses with me, and I carry them like badges of honor. They drive me to inspire others, to support our wounded warriors, to impact change in a world that can feel so heavy. We cannot live in fear or allow it to become our guiding force. Instead, we choose to learn, to confront difficult truths, and move forward as a united front." There was a slight shift in the dynamics of the group, a faint glimmer of acknowledgement creeping into the eyes of my family, bolstering my fortitude. I pressed on, my heart pounding with a surge of determination. "So, yes, let's talk about those harsh realities. Let's unite to understand why they have happened, but let's not allow fear to sever our ties. We can honor the struggles our family members have faced and strive to build a stronger, more understanding legacy." His expression faltered momentarily, the edges of an argument softening beneath the weight of my words. But you have to believe that life isn't just about definitions and titles. It can't be that simple, he countered, though his voice wavered. It's not simple, but we are family, and families learn to grow together, I proclaimed passionately. It's all part of the journey. We owe it to ourselves to navigate our strengths together, to ensure that our loved ones feel supported. Everyone here faces unique experiences, and it's those experiences that we can draw strength from. Uncle Mark opened his mouth to respond, but seemed caught by surprise, perhaps rethinking. At that moment, I could feel the collective energy of the room shifting slowly, exchanging glances that spoke of newfound understanding. Perhaps we were breaking down the barriers built on skepticism and miscommunication. I took a breath, steadying myself. It's profound to realize that we all carry burdens and stories. Each loss leaves a wound, but we shouldn't let those wounds dictate our relationships, to allow fear and doubt to overshadow unity. Let's confront challenges together. The murmurs among the family grew louder, voices overlapping as they echoed support for my plea. I sensed Uncle Mark resisting, still torn between embedded doubt and the awakening realization that perhaps compassion could emerge from conflict. We've all faced pain, but our family can still thrive by providing support for one another. We need to lift each other higher. My voice rang out as I scanned the faces around me, actively seeking to inspire that shift from trepidation to trust. To my surprise, he took a step closer, softened by the welcoming energy radiating from the room. You might be right. I just don't want to sit idly by and watch someone I care about step into the line of fire, he admitted. There was a crack in his armor, a quiet concession that carried the promise of resilience. I understand that, Uncle Mark. Truly, I replied, feeling a rush of gratitude for his willingness to engage. We have the right to express our worries, but let's balance them with the hope that encompasses what it means to be family. The tension dissipated, the weight of skepticism lifting as my family began to embrace this new understanding. The conversations around us resumed, cautiously revitalizing the spirit of our gathering while slowly knitting together the threads of connections fraught with conflict. With each story exchanged, laughter began to flow back into our circles, merging our fears into collective strength. Maybe we could all commit to discussing our concerns together, I proposed, an idea blooming in the convivial atmosphere. Let's foster conversations that remember our realities, but also honor our desires to uplift one another. Our voices matter. The agreement hummed through our family, voices entwined in a newfound promise to connect through love. Let's encourage one another moving forward, I urged. I invite us to explore those complexities together rather than face them alone. Next time we gather, let's create a safe space for those discussions to thrive. As Uncle Mark nodded slowly, I felt the potential dawn upon us, a collective healing blossoming into brighter possibilities. This gathering had shifted from mere recognition to a renewed commitment, an invitation to clear the air, breathe life back into our family narrative, and heal deep-rooted divisions. The embrace of warmth surrounding us felt electric, the awkwardness turning into a symphony of understanding as people began to form pairs, sharing thoughts and memories fervently. The family bond, once bombarded by skepticism, had re-emerged with clarity, forging ahead to craft a legacy built on both truth and the shared promise to face both struggles and triumphs together. As the night drew to a close, I found myself filled with gratitude and hope, having stood firm against darkness while bridging that gap. We had reinforced the power of connection through shared perspectives, igniting compassion in a space where fear threatened to linger. I realized that having faced conflicts head-on, I had ignited a new era, not only for me, but for every family member present. We could step into the future, navigating our turbulent waters together, bolstered by understanding and united by love. And as we gave voice to the unsung challenges we would face together, I felt invincible, knowing that our family would walk this path side by side, charting a course through the storms of life, always embracing the light of connection. The last echoes of laughter hung in the air as the evening gradually wound down, the warmth of the gathering still wrapping around me like a well-worn blanket. I sat quietly at the edge of the living room, watching the familiar faces of my family mingling together, sharing stories and laughter, their expressions illuminated by the soft glow of soft lighting. It felt almost surreal, like we had crossed through a threshold from conflict to connection, with each of us carving out a new path in our familial legacy. Uncle Mark had taken the initiative, once contentious, but now animated as he shared a particularly funny childhood anecdote about my father, whose laughter rang out clear and light, buoyed by recognition of shared history. The room had gradually reformed into a sanctuary rich in camaraderie and acceptance, each lingering conflict now fading into a tapestry of connection woven with threads of understanding. After all the hurt and misunderstandings that had characterized our family dynamics, it felt remarkably liberating. As I carefully observed each interaction, I felt a swell of gratitude for the quiet resilience and bravery present in every family member. In light of unexpected challenges, we had collectively chosen connection over division, allowing space for healing and reconciliation. The celebration had transformed not just into a moment, but rather into a pivotal juncture, one that ushered in hope. Yet, as I reveled in the sweet solace of the moment, another wave of realization washed over me. I had spent countless years chasing titles and accolades, proving my worth in the Navy while seeking the respect that had so frequently eluded me in my familial sphere. But tonight, more than any other night, I had found something deeper, my voice, our voice, a symphony of shared struggles that embraced our vulnerabilities. I rose from my seat, moving toward the center of the room, feeling a rush of determination pulse through me. "Hey everyone, may I have your attention for a moment?" I called out, my voice steady but with an edge of excitement. The room quieted, heads turning in my direction, curiosity etched in their expressions. I know it's late, and we've all shared so much tonight, but I feel compelled to express my gratitude to each of you, I acknowledged, scanning the faces of my family, subtly illuminated, shades of warmth blooming amidst the flicker of lights. Navigating the realities of life can often feel daunting, and being in the Navy, I've learned that the greatest strength comes not from operating solo, but from the bonds we create with one another. I paused, letting my words sink in, eager to open the conversation once more. We've weathered storms in our lives, faced our demons, and I want us to recognize that we are not alone on this journey. In our shared stories, we find healing and connection, and I hope we can continue to forge those bonds each time we gather. A hush fell over the room as the weight of my words settled in. I could see nods of agreement and understanding ripple through my family, as if my declaration had planted a seed that promised to thrive in the sunlight of acceptance. This isn't just about my journey in the Navy or the titles I've earned. It's about all of us coming together and embracing the diversity of our experiences. Our stories might differ, but together we can cultivate a legacy of resilience, love, and unwavering support. I could feel the electricity in the air, charged by our collective presence and the challenges faced together. Let's promise to dismantle the walls we've built over time and instead encourage one another to lean on each other's shoulders. Our connections allow us to confront the hardness of life, not simply endure it, but truly thrive amidst adversity. At that moment, my Uncle Mark stepped forward, his anxious demeanor giving way to a softer understanding, something almost tender. "You're right, Sarah," he confessed, clearing his throat. "It's easy to lose sight of what matters amidst the chaos we face. I've been so preoccupied with worry that I forgot to appreciate the bonds we have inherited." His admission opened a doorway, inviting others to share their thoughts, voices rising up in a harmonious chorus. My father chimed in, I never wanted to cast a shadow over your achievements. I'm proud of you, Sarah, and I acknowledge the sacrifices you have made. We have to foster this understanding moving forward. This gathering is a testament to our commitment to one another. I watched as family members began to open up, heartwarming disclosures flowing freely like a river released from its confines. I've always worried about what the future holds, my mother said, her voice wobbly but filled with sincerity. What if our paths lead us apart again? It's such a powerful reminder of how fragile these moments can be. Each word shared that night carved deeper paths toward healing and reconnection. They rang true like bells, reminding us that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but a shared strength. And it became clear that what we needed most in moments of anxiety was each other, an unwavering family support network steadfast against the waves of uncertainty in the world outside. In these moments of candor, old misunderstandings were pieced together, and laughter flowed amidst tears as layers of hidden resentment fell away, replaced by forgiveness. Reconciliation was taking place, and I couldn't help but wish it for every family struggling with their dynamics amid the chaos of life. We each needed to understand that we could rise together as a unit, ready to face anything. After stories leaped back and forth, I caught my younger brother, Jake, struggling to hold back tears as he shared his own journey. I've always felt like I had to set aside my emotions to be the support for others when I'm struggling inside, he said softly. Tonight has taught me that it's okay to speak up, to ask for help. His words struck me deep. This was exactly the space we needed to create, one where no one felt the need to hide their struggles behind a mask or a facade. We would be a family standing shoulder to shoulder, united, ready to take on life's challenges while celebrating each journey together. As the evening drew to a close, I felt a renewed sense of purpose swell inside me. This wasn't simply about family gatherings, but about building our collective future, one of mutual understanding, compassion, and unwavering love. The promise we had made to each other echoed within my chest, exhilarating and empowering. With heartfelt excitement, I proposed one final toast, seeking the reverberation of our commitment to stay connected. To family, I declared, raising my glass. To shared stories, and to embracing our vulnerabilities as a strength. May we celebrate not only our triumphs, but the journey we each endure together. With glasses raised high and spirits entwined, we clinked and drank, sealing our promises with a chorus of laughter and joy ringing out into the night. Every sip carried strength, a symbol of our resolve to lift one another up, create space for growth, and illuminate the path forward together. In the end, all I had ever wanted was to contribute to my family's legacy, transcending titles and ranks, and finding unity within our stories. Tonight, we had taken steps towards healing, even if imperfectly, learning to communicate, respect, and appreciate one another through thick and thin. As we gathered our belongings and prepared to leave, the warmth of love wrapped around us tightly, the night shining brightly with possibilities. I whispered a silent gratitude into the universe, thankful for this turning point in our family, knowing well it would guide us through many more adventures, standing resiliently together against any storm that came our way. And as the final goodbyes were exchanged, I stepped outside to the cool evening breeze, feeling connected not just to my family, but to the very essence of who we were becoming, a family redefining strength, cultivating love, and forging ahead together in glorious unity.